Since the beginning of this adventure, we've considered ourselves incredibly lucky to have avoided any major boat issues. And that's saying something since the engine in our 1988 sailboat is original and currently clocking in at over 7,000 hours. As we've traveled across Lake Erie and are now working our way down the East Coast, we've started to trust our boat more and more. We've grown familiar to its quirks and the odd noises that it makes while under motor or sailing. Atlas has kept us safe in rough conditions and has proven to us time and time again that she can handle what we throw at her. I guess that's why when problems finally arose, we were devastated to find out that it wasn't the engine, the weather, or some catastrophic failure. It was us. And it was a careless and entirely avoidable mistake. When we last left off, though, we were in Norfolk, Virginia, and we're getting ready to start the Intercoastal Waterway. Up until we bought our boat, I had never heard of the ICW, so imagine my surprise when I found out that there is a 3,000-mile-long waterway that connects the inner waterways along the Atlantic and Gulf coasts. We're planning to take the ICW down through the Virginia Cut and past Cape Hatteras since it's well known for having bad weather and rough seas.
We're at Hospital Point and we're just getting ready to get underway to head towards south of Coinjack to an Anchorage. Maybe for a couple days, or maybe we'll head somewhere else in the Albemarle Sound. But for now, we'll go pick up the anchor and we're gonna start making our way south. We're at mile 0 of the Intercoastal Waterway. So let's go ahead and pick up the anchor here. Oh yeah, she's got a big old chunk of mud on her there. Go ahead and drag her as we go through Anchorage here a little bit.
Sometimes if we have a ton of mud, we've found that letting the anchor drag through the water while we motor out of anchorages helps knock some of it loose.
We're in the Great Bridge Lock, and compared to the Erie Canal, it is very different. They have us getting pretty well packed in here, almost at the end here, and it's quite a number of boats. Quite a number of boats in here. A little bit of a gap there.
On the Erie Canal, we went through over 30 locks as we made our way across New York. Most times we were the only vessel in the locks, so to have so many other boats with us was a bit unnerving. But thankfully the lockmasters were really helpful at retrieving everyone's lines and helping them get situated. If you'd like to see more of our trip from the Erie Canal, I'll leave a link down below. We made it through the lock, but now we gotta wait with everyone for the bridge to open. That night, we dropped anchor at Buck Island and retreated to one of the most incredible anchorages we've been to yet.
up in Alligator River this morning. We stayed at Tuckahoo Point, Anchorage. It was a very remote, very quiet Anchorage. There was about, I think there was 5 other sailboats with us. We took the dinghy for a good 5-minute ride up the river, and we found the small little boat ramp to take the dog for a nice long walk. It's been a day since she has been to land. This stretch through the Virginia Cut is tough for dog owners. There's not a lot of land access unless you're gonna pay to stay at a marina, and we didn't want to really stay to pay at the marina. So plus it looked like they were rafting people up at the marina when we went past. The Anchorage at Tuckahoo Point had quite a lot of soft mud. I don't think our chain has come up that muddy yet, so I'm really looking forward to seeing some sandy anchorages, because getting out the washdown hose and then making the deck all black from that soft mud is kind of a pain in the butt, but we get it done.
It was another calm and windless day on the ICW. It was crazy how calm the waters had been, and at Anchorage it almost felt like we weren't even on a boat. But we soon found out that we weren't the only ones who were enjoying the calm weather. Do you want to explain what you're doing right now?
Yes. So since we got to Belhaven, is it Belhaven? Yes. Since we got to Belhaven and dropped the anchor, there have been literally hundreds of flies coming into the boat. And we found the bug nets, we put some bug nets up that we could, and now we're just on a killing spree. I don't know if you can see inside of this drum here.
Hold on, let me see if I can get them.
But inside of this drum and all the cat hair, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of flies in here.
Maybe dozens.
Oh no, look at all that black. That's all dead flies. Dozens. We can see them all trying to come in on the bug net.
Yeah, I know. There's a bunch of them over there.
We're getting down to the last like 10.
Oh! After a couple of days in Belhaven, it was time to keep motoring south. The winds had picked back up at this point and had brought some rain along with it. After going through a channel, we were making our way across the Pamlico Sound, and we had enough wind that we were actually able to pull the headsail out and do some motor sailing on our way across. The plan for that day was to make it to Beaufort, North Carolina for fuel and a pump out, but this is where things took a turn and our plans went out the window.
6.5 right now. So we're heading towards Oriental. About an hour and a half. He thinks we're about an hour and a half. Before we get to Oriental, once we start seeing the town, he's gonna call me in 45 minutes. But once we get closer, he's gonna take us under tow and then push us to the tow dock.
So how exactly did we end up needing to get a tow? We ran out of fuel.
Yeah, we heard the RPMs on the engine starting to drop randomly. It wasn't much, it was about 50 to 100 RPM, but it was just enough that something wasn't quite right. And I'm thinking, oh great, our engine's about to grenade itself. So I quickly shut it off. We have the head sail out, we're still sailing, so everything's good in that regard. So we go check all the usual things, check the fuel filters, just take a look at everything, make sure everything's looking okay. There's no oil in the bottom of the end of the bilge, so the engine is intact. So I started thinking, we haven't gotten fuel in a long time. And I do run a fuel log every single day. Every day we move, I check the fuel and log the fuel into the fuel log, and I estimate the burn based upon the previous owner's calculations. Well, we should have had roughly 30 gallons. We had 3 gallons. So, needless to say, In the future, I now check every estimated 25 gallons I burn, and we have an 80-gallon tank. The way we check is we manually dip a tape measure essentially down into the fuel tank, and it's pre-marked with the correct values, and I did double check those. But anyway, so we're sailing on down into the Pamlico Sound and thinking, what are our options here at this point? We paid for the Towboat US membership, so we're going to use them. We gave them a call. We got everything lined up. We told them the situation. Everything was fine. Generally, there was 20 knots of wind. We could sail basically almost the whole way into Oriental, North Carolina. And that's basically what we did. We were sailing upwind for a little bit, and then we turned down the New Use River, and we're flying our head sail. Dead downwind, basically. With about 20 to 25 knots of wind, so we were clipping along pretty good at 6.5 knots.
Yeah.
And once the towboat operator, we were talking with him over the cell phone, and he kind of was tracking us on AIS, and we told him what our estimated ETA was. He would basically meet us just before the entrance of the Mark Channel there to get into Oriental. We rendezvoused with him. And to add insult to injury, we went to furl in the head sail downwind, and we didn't keep enough tension on the furling line.
Which I take full responsibility for.
With no propulsion, we were just like, screw it, we'll figure it out later. Let's get hooked up onto the tow, let's get into the harbor.
So as we were making our way into Oriental, not only were we getting towed in, we got to listen to our head sail flog in the wind the entire way. If our egos were not bruised enough at that point, they were definitely by the time we pulled into the fuel dock.
Oh yeah. Nothing like adding insult to injury when you pull up to the fuel dock, one bonehead move running out of fuel, and then also you just look like you're
a complete amateur.
Yeah, the new guys on the block that don't know how to furl a head sail.
Yeah.
One of the easiest sails to put away, in my opinion. So
it was definitely a humbling moment, I think. Up until this point, we had been very fortunate to not have any issues with our boat, so it was a learning experience.
Yeah, I will say we do not have a fuel gauge, so
yes, that is another thing.
That's why we have to dip the tank.
Yeah.
And also, in addition to procedurally checking and verifying, trust but verify, my calculations are correct, we also have 15 gallons of diesel fuel now going to be stored on deck at all times.
We've tried to
redundancy.
I was just going to say redundancy. No. Yeah, we've tried to add some redundancy to the system to make sure we don't end up in a situation like this again. I think for how things could have gone, it could have been a lot worse for what it was. We were extremely lucky to lose fuel somewhere that we could easily sail and not be in anyone's way. Like, I think the scenario couldn't have turned out better for what it could have been. So we're very fortunate that it just ended up being a learning experience and didn't turn into anything bigger than it could have been. So we ended up staying the night in Oriental and got some showers and laundry done. And then the next day it was back out on the water so that we could keep making our way south. Again, I can't emphasize how lucky we are that this didn't turn out to be anything big. I think it was an extremely embarrassing moment for us, but it did teach us some hard and important lessons about checking our fuel consumption more times than not. That's gonna be it for this video. In the next one, we're gonna keep making our way south, and I wish I could say that this was our only problem that we had making our way down south, but unfortunately, this is just the start. Thanks for watching.